Thank you. I was asked one question a lot growing up, and that question was, what do you want to be when you grow up? So just by show of hands, how many of us have ever been asked this question? Okay, so, so basically all of us. And think back to when you were asked this question, what was your answer? Now, if you have an answer, just shout it out.
Astronauts.
An astronaut, cool.
Fireman.
A fireman, a singer. Anyone else?
Garbage collector.
Sorry?
Garbage collector.
A garbage collector. We need those, very important. Cool. So maybe you wanted to be a firefighter, or maybe you wanted to be a pilot who traveled the world. I once asked a young kid this question, what do you want to be when you grow up? He whispered in my ear and said, Donald Trump. I think he meant president, but I wasn't sure, so I quickly moved on. But at one stage in our lives, we've all had a dream, right? And for me, as a kid, I always wanted to be a medical doctor. That was my dream, and let me tell you why. Medical doctors, they made a positive difference in the world. They changed lives, and doctors made a lot of money too. So that was my thinking as a kid. But then just before my final school exams, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I lost interest in studying completely. Actually, see that kid there in the red? That was me in every class. Here I was worried about my mom dying, and the teachers are reciting Shakespeare. I didn't care. So this is what I thought I would look like getting my results. I'd be really happy on my way to study medicine at university, and this is what I actually looked like getting my results. I was devastated. So then I was thinking, okay, so what am I going to do now? Well, I decided to study nursing because at least nurses got to stand next to doctors. But my first lesson was things don't always go to plan. You might have a perfect vision or dream, for example, a garbage collector, for your life, but things don't always go to plan. Life will throw things at you that you never saw coming. So remember, like I said, I'm devastated. I've decided I'm going to study nursing because at least they get to stand next to doctors. And so I did a very, very short course in nursing studies, and I got really great results. So this was it. I was now eligible to apply for nursing, and I only applied for nursing. But on the application form, there was one slot left for another degree. So as a fail-safe, I put down a degree called Early Childhood Education. Did I know what early childhood education was? Not really. But did it matter? No, because I was getting into nursing. So fast forward to D-Day to see if I got into nursing, and you guessed it, I got into early childhood education. So once again, I was devastated. That's me there on the screen crying again. So I started comparing myself to other people. I looked around, and people I'd gone to secondary school with were already in their second year of university, and here I was entering into a course that I didn't even know what it meant. But little did I know that lesson 2 was on the way. Your path is your own. There'll be times in life where you look around and other people seem to be doing better than you, or maybe you even feel like a failure because things aren't going to plan. I'd encourage you to remember that your path is your own and your path is yours alone. So Shakespeare came in handy, I rhymed there. But in my first year of the early childhood degree, I really wanted to drop out. I hadn't accepted that my path was my own. And like the lady on the screen there, I felt really frustrated. I was stuck. But then after a while, I really started to love early childhood education. I wanted to find ways to improve the quality of education. And in that process, I learned that it doesn't matter where you find yourself. My lesson 3 was to own it. Be the best you can be wherever you find yourself. And that's exactly what I did. So I became fascinated with early childhood education, child development, and I went from that degree all the way to a PhD. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to get a PhD in their chosen field, but I would argue that if you want to make a change, especially in a dynamic world, then you need to know what you bring to the table. You need to know why you're unique. The advice I'd give to anyone, whether that's starting a business or wanting to make a change, is to find a mountain or challenge and then solve that challenge or help others to climb. But remember that when you're climbing, you might have to walk alone for a little while because maybe people have forgotten about that challenge, or maybe they're just not interested in it. But back to me, I'm a broke university student. So what change could I really make? Well, the one thing that we had during the early childhood degree was work experience. We went on a lot of work experience. And I noticed that educators all had one thing in common. They never had time. They were constantly planning, trying to communicate with parents, and they also had to comply with regulations in the form of all of this paperwork. Actually, one preschool owner I talked to had almost 21 years of paperwork stored in her attic that she had to keep for insurance purposes and some for inspections. So when I heard this, I knew that I had to do something. It really sparked my drive for change. But again, I'm a broke university student, so that voice is in my head. What change can you possibly make? Well, lesson 4, my final lesson, was never underestimate the power of connections. And I'm going to tell you why through my story. So remember, I found the problem. Educators are stressed, they don't have enough time. And what can I do about it? Well, as a millennial, what's the first thing I thought of? Social media. So I went on LinkedIn and I started posting about the problems that early childhood educators were facing. And I pointed to research that showed that children who attend quality preschools are less likely to be incarcerated, they're more likely to own their own homes, and they're actually more likely to out-earn their peers who did not attend quality preschools. Well, in 2017, an investor saw one of my LinkedIn posts. We spoke on the phone once, and he invested £50,000 in my idea. I think he wanted to shut me up, really, by investing, but either way, I used the money to hire a software developer. And this software developer then helped me turn my idea into a reality. But it wasn't easy. I worked 2 to 3 jobs at the time. I was doing a PhD, and I was trying to get my company TeachKloud off the ground. So not stressful at all. But it was worth it because 2 years later, although we had very few customers, they were very happy customers. But now the software was breaking because it was getting really old. So I needed to raise capital to update the software. So I spoke to a number of investors, and I quickly learned that no is in fact a full sentence. I heard it so many times. but, but one VC or investor told me, hey, you know, we're probably not going to invest, but why don't you come along to our founders conference? You might learn something. So like I said, I really did believe in the power of connection, so I accepted. But there was one issue, I had a conflicting event. So I had to drive in the middle of the night on Irish country roads in the dark. It was raining, the roads were slippery, but it was fine because I made the conference just in time. Now, the conference was great. I actually did learn a lot. The VC was right. But it was going to the end of the conference and I hadn't really made any connections. So I remember praying to Jesus, being like, please, God, send me an angel in the form of an investor. But it was now the end of the conference. It was really the end of the conference. They were serving dinner, they gave us desserts, and I was in the line for the desserts. I'd kind of given up. And a random man behind me in the line started asking me questions like, who are you, where are you from? And so I told him. And that man in the line to get desserts became the lead investor for TeachKloud's round for €750,000. Until date, we've raised just under €1 million in funding and grants. So Jesus really came through for me. TeachKloud is a childcare management platform today that helps thousands of early childhood educators and parents communicate, comply with regulations, and what's very close to my heart is also support children with accessing quality education. The last 2 words I'd like to leave you with are what if. These 2 words have really shaped my entire journey. What if I'd given up when things didn't go to plan? What if I'd let failure keep me stuck? Now I'll ask you, what's your what if? I'm actually asking you, think about it.
That's the question.
No, but what's your what if? And you probably have it in your head now. But I want to ask you, what if your what if you actually tackled it, would be the thing that would change everything? I'd encourage you to let your what if push you forward because staying stuck was never meant to be your story. Thank you.